Hello everyone, it's Farket here, and in this video what I'm going to do is show you the DPS of all the weapons in the game. Now this was done using the weapon and hitting a defensive wall with building destruction mode off and with the energy locked. The reason being is because I wanted to test stamina at the same time, but it's too much to fit in this video. There'll be another video after this. There'll be damage per second, per stamina, per second. DPSPSPS. I think that's right. Now in the column on the right is where all the information has been recorded. So what I did is I hit it for 15 seconds and I times that by 4 to bring it up to 60. Then I'll multiply it by its damage, then divide it by 60. I'm getting better with math. I'm still a bit retarded at it though. Now the reason there's damage versus enemies, versus buildings, and versus players is that all the tests I've done, they've given different values. Though if you worked out the percentage difference between them all, they would all align. I think the reason for the differences in damage is due to the fact that they don't list how much damage you do, so they never had to align these values. So the main important one here is damage versus enemies, as that's what you're going to be hitting most of the time. Though I thought listing them all would be best. More information is better. It helped me identify some issues later on. Now I'm just going to have these running while I'm talking and speed them up when appropriate. It's pretty dry, but doing this video was a lot more drier than probably watching it. I spent about, a good 16 hours on this video, which kind of sucks because the forest isn't really being worked on anymore. Though I started this before I found that out. And also it was good to do this because it was a different type of video and increases my ability with math. So in the future, when doing these types of tests on Sons of the Forest, it's going to help a lot. I'll know what I'm doing. Now most of the tests went well. Only a few weapons had issues. One's where you run out of stamina. And what I did when I did run out of stamina is that I did a very accurate guesstimate or estimate of how many hits you'd actually be able to do in the 15-second period. So in the case of the plane axe, without upgrades, it runs out of stamina before the 15 seconds are up. Though once you whack upgrades on it, it's a different story. It's able to finish its test before the 15 seconds are up. So what I've done is I've put run out of stamina and then I've done an estimate. Now some weapons like the crafted axe and the club, when you put full damage upgrades on them, what ends up happening is that they're that slow that when you run out of stamina, you're swinging at the exact same speed as if you had stamina. So if you get good with, say, the club, which is actually quite a good weapon, and you run out of stamina, you'll be able to fight just as efficiently as if you had stamina. The thing is, you just can't run around. Now doing these tests, I haven't tested power attacks. The reason being is that there's quite a few weapons that are bugged out and don't do the proper damage. Most of the axes, like the rusty axe, modern axe and that, I'm not sure why that is. It's just a bug and I doubt it's ever going to be fixed. Though if you're wondering, a power attack does 3 times the damage of what a normal attack does. So it's very good on weapons like the club and crafted club even. Though the crafted club and club both run out of stamina if they're not upgraded in the 15 seconds. They're very stamina hungry weapons, those ones. But once you put upgrades on them, they're not so stamina hungry because you're just not swinging that fast. So you're not using up as much ammunition, because that's basically what stamina is. It's your ammunition. The tennis racket is a unique weapon and I go on about it a lot. To address why is because you can swing it indefinitely when it's got full damage upgrades. You won't run out of stamina unless you're running around, of course. So it's a very unique weapon and it's very good because it actually does quite a lot of damage. Now the katana, that one runs out of stamina before the 15 seconds are up. So I had to do an accurate estimate on how many strikes it can push out. And it's quite a lot, but its damage is quite low. Though for all the weapons that are not upgraded, the katana is the best weapon. If the katana could actually be upgraded, it would be the best weapon in the game. Now these DPS values are based on having 99 strength, because when I did the tests, when I was hitting things right, every time I swung that weapon, I was gaining strength, so it would alter the numbers. So having it locked at 99 strength means it wasn't going to fluctuate. So I did the test on hard, which means that the strength won't lower. In hard survival, your strength can lower if you don't have enough calories, if that makes sense. I did test a lot of the really silly weapons like the head, skull, and that, even meat, just to give more data. If I ever needed it, I can pull it. Though a lot of those things aren't meant to be used as weapons. Though I did find that bug that affected the modern axe and rusty axe. It affects the arm and leg as well. So your power attacks with an arm and leg will actually do the exact same damage as a modern axe or rusty axe. So it can actually be a fairly effective way of killing something. And the block on them is actually not too bad as well, especially the arm from memory. Now I should note that when I was doing these, I was using an auto attacker or auto clicker. So I was attacking at the fastest rate possible. That way it keeps the results consistent. If I'm clicking, I might not click fast enough for that weapon, or I might misclick or whatever. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. Now the problem with that is running into weapons like the upgraded rock, the turtle shell, the skull, and the head. Now what happens with these weapons is that the faster you hit the attack button, even on PlayStation, this affects PlayStation as well, it drains stamina even if you haven't attacked. So an auto clicker that's clicking once every 30 milliseconds, you'll run out of stamina within half a second. So if you're ever using these weapons in the field, if you're clicking really fast, you're going to drain the hell out of your stamina and probably only perform 2 hits. It's a bug in the game that I discovered while doing these videos. So my advice of all these weapons is don't use them as weapons. The only one that's probably sensible enough to use as a weapon is the upgraded rock, but it's a crap weapon anyway. It was originally intended to be the weapon that performed stealth kills because that was the only weapon that could originally perform them, though they eventually added it to other weapons, mainly axes and clubs and stuff. I don't think the katana can perform them from memory, though I might be wrong. I don't even think clubs can perform them. It's mainly axes and the upgraded rock, and yeah. So what I had to do for these tests is I just retested them and locked my stamina in place. Because of the speed it was going at, I'd run out of stamina within 1 second. You just can't do an estimate on that. It's too difficult. The numbers are just way off. You don't get enough data to be able to perform that estimate. Though for some of the tests, I was able to get enough. Now I'm going to put a spreadsheet. I'm probably going to attach the numbers that I got in a spreadsheet or something and attach it to the video, give a download link. I'll probably include them at the end of the video. Just got to work out a way to copy and paste that data from the Excel sheet, which is very boring. As for the ranged weapons, they don't do any damage to buildings, so the information's not available for them. Though based on the other tests, you could actually figure out how much damage they would do to buildings if they could do damage to buildings. But that's pointless. Now, the weapon I had the most problems with was the chainsaw. The reason being is that when I tested on enemies, it was giving different damage amounts every time I hit them. So it would do like 3 or 4 or 2 or something like that. So you can't really test how much damage it actually does. But based on the previous numbers, you would be able to work out the percentage differences between the damage, the building, and the players and get an estimate of what the damage versus enemies is on the chainsaw. Unfortunately, I don't know how to do that as my math skills haven't increased that far. So what I did instead, because I've been working on this video for so long and I don't have the time or effort to go and figure that out because I haven't uploaded a video this week, I decided to kill an armsy and figure out how long it took to kill it. I had God mode on so that way if it hit me I didn't flinch, I was constantly attacking. I killed it in 17.31 seconds on hard mode. So the estimate of its DPS is 17.31, which is fairly high, though you should save your fuel for cutting down trees on this one. Now the last test I did quite recently because I came up with an idea on how to test them. And what I did is I set up a macro key to perform the actions automatically. And I had to strictly time them to be as fast as possible. If the macro didn't work, it means it was too fast most of the time. So I kept tightening the timings until I got to a point where it was as fast as possible. So because the timings are so tight, I don't think it's realistic to say that this is its DPS because I don't think anyone's going to be able to fire this fast. You can try and record yourself firing this fast. I doubt you will be able to do it. So treat that as a challenge, if you will. So the DPS on these ranged weapons is probably going to be quite a bit higher than what it normally would be, but there's no other way to test it unless I just lower the timings, but then I could be making one weapon faster than another. So I thought, screw it, I'll just give them all the tightest timings that they can to perform the damage that they can. Though at the start of each one, I show you the macro setup I've got for each one. The only thing I was iffy about was the flintlock pistol because I actually aimed with that before firing, so that would have slowed down its DPS. But I thought that's what most players are going to be doing anyway. Shooting it from the hips probably not a good idea. Now with spears, it doesn't matter if it's an upgraded spear or a weak spear. They do the exact same damage when thrown. I didn't test the incendiary spear because you can only throw that once, and it's a bit difficult to test its DPS on that, but it probably could be done, but you just look at how much damage it does. I think it was one of the highest damaging weapons in the game when I tested it versus players, which means that it would be the same for enemies as well. Just don't miss when you throw it. Now, as for the bows, in the tests I did, I'm shooting with the same arrows, but it doesn't affect its speed. So I just have the damages switching between in 3 cycles, the normal arrows, bone arrows, and modern arrows, and how much DPS they do. The only thing is with the bows is that I was able to get very tight timings on the modern bow. It was able to shoot very fast compared to the crafted bow. No matter what I did, I couldn't get the crafted bow to fire any faster. So what this basically means is that you can actually master the modern bow to shoot almost as quick as a crafted bow, probably 20% slower, but that's still very fast. What stands out here is that the modern bow's modern arrow damage is significantly higher than all the other ones. It's made to be paired with it. Now here's all the DPS values on the screen now of all the tests I did. From what I can tell looking at it, looks like the chainsaw has the highest, but you can't block and it slows down your movement speed when using it, and it uses fuel. It's all well and good if you can keep them stunned the whole time while you're hitting them. Now DPS isn't exactly the best recorder of how effective a weapon is, because you look at the katana, it's able to do 80 DPS, right? Which is actually quite a lot than most of the weapons with upgrades, very close to modern axe. But you don't have enough stamina to actually put out that amount of damage. You run out. So this is where in the next video, damage per second per stamina per second is going to be a much better indicator of how effective a weapon is. Though that's not relevant to bows because they don't use any stamina. Same with the chainsaw and the crossbow and the flintlock pistol. Though you're using your stamina a lot with moving around, dodging attacks. So yeah, it's still useful to have that stamina. But to get to DPSPSPS, I had to do this first, though this might be important to some people. I've been doing videos on this game for like 3 years and I'm still learning things about it. This game has got a lot of depth, and I imagine Sons of the Forest is going to have a lot of depth too. They're probably not going to tell us any of this stuff, and I kind of hope they don't, because the mystery of it keeps the debate live, keeps it interesting as well. If you're fighting with God mode on, it's probably best just to use a katana. Out of all of them, probably. I will say the ones that stood out to me, the plain axe came out doing more damage than the modern axe. That was a surprise, but it's very stamina hungry. The machete coming out at near the top, that was a surprise too. The katana's DPS, I knew it was going to be relatively high. You just don't have the stamina to use it that effectively. The crafted club coming out with more damage than modern axe, that was a surprise. I think the crafted club actually swings faster than the modern axe. The rusty axe definitely came out worse than I thought it would. I think I've only got a couple of more videos and I can do like an ultimate weapon guide where I list everything I've ever tested. I don't have all the numbers next to each other yet, so I can't say which one's going to be the top contender, but it's either going to be the machete, the club, or the modern axe that's going to win. The runner-ups will probably be the crafted club, the tennis racket. Now the reason I say tennis racket is because of its stamina usage. It makes it a very unique weapon that can actually fit into scenarios that you might need it. And the katana. Now that's not including the range weapons. The range weapons are more... it's more fiddly. That's definitely a little bit more in depth. And the DPS doesn't really affect them too much if you're hitting them in the head a lot, but that doesn't affect mutants. There's so much more content I can do on this game. There really is, but I don't know if I'm just milking it. I don't really know. But yeah, anyway, hopefully you found this video helpful. And if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Cheers.